myself, I'm not just gonna stand here and wait. I wanna just decide what is to be my fate. Alone all by myself, I'm not just gonna stay here and wait.
Well, good morning, everybody. I didn't expect to see anybody here this early. This is the Week in the Review show for Really Cool News from our daily newscast. Due to technical issues yesterday, you're going to be exclusive, or you're going to get the exclusive newscast that was supposed to be last night, but I didn't get to finish before storms rolled through the area in about 5 minutes and took the power out for the next 7 or 8 hours. So you're hearing at the end of this, you'll be hearing Saturday's broadcast, which will be repeated again tonight on the combined show at 6:30 p.m. for the news of yesterday and the news of today. This Week in Review is now going to air every week every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. where it counts, 7 a.m. Mountain, and 6 a.m. Pacific time. It's basically just the past 7 days of news, so you're going to get about an hour and a half of news to keep you company this morning since there's nothing else going on. Other programming notes, again, our normal newscast is on for 6:30 p.m. Eastern tonight. Then at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be back with our Saturday on a Sunday All-Star panel. I know it had to be changed because of the storms and everything else going on last night. Tomorrow morning, we'll be right back with you at 8:55 a.m. for our Karen Reed murder trial coverage. The trial is winding down as the defense has gone through half of their witnesses so far, and they may get through the other half of the witnesses tomorrow morning, and this thing may be going to the jury. So tomorrow may be your last chance to see me, Hank, and Phil together as a trio for some time or until we get our next court case lined up. With that, I'm going to throw you to our hour and a half of news coverage. So, good morning. Thank you for being here. And if you feel like tipping, the tip jar is out at the pinned message. So, if you don't stick around to the end, have a wonderful morning. There is no end credit scene this morning because I'm a lazy bastard and actually finished the news from last night at 3 a.m. and then went back to bed. I still have to get the paper put out, which I'll be doing during this extended episode.
Fake chili GoFundMe wins day. Now you're just mocking me. This has got to be a scam. Who in their right mind would donate to a fake GoFundMe? I'm going through the list. It's got to be someone's sock account, but a $40 donation towards the fan-run Support Delete Laws from the Tyranny He Fights GoFundMe won the freaking day. I'll say that again. A single donation to a fake GoFundMe run by someone obviously scamming in the name of Jose Chili de Castro won the day. It means another week of this segment and column. Gee, thanks. It means Shuggy gets another updated XLS. It means I'll never, ever, ever get out of writing this column. Somebody out there hates me, that's for sure. Speaking of hating this reporter, Christopher Direct D. Ruff was joined by the YouTuber known as Jim Freedom for a brief livestream on Saturday, simulcast to their multiple YouTube channels for a long discussion of media credits? At issue was Ruff's pivot from First Amendment auditor to media mogul. He and Freedom Jim run their Street Network media outlet, which had exclusive access to the trial of Austin Davis, the founder of the nonprofit AZ Hugs Group. Davis is on trial for holding unpermitted food events in Tempe, Arizona, without a permit. According to Ruff, Davis is facing 6 months in prison for these activities, and his trial is of great interest in the area. A deal was made between Jim Freedom and local News 12 for use of Freedom's footage from the courtroom, as long as News 12 attributed it to Freedom's Street News Network. News 12 declined to do so when they used the footage, which led to a dispute between the parties. The Street News Network initially providing pool coverage for the other media outlets, both News 12 and Jim Freedom now have the ability to film in court, which brings up a couple of concerns that you should think about. Despite what people think about DirectD and Jim Freedom and their First Amendment activities, they went through the process as a media organization and were granted rights to essentially run the pool camera for this case in exchange for credit for their work. On first appearance, it seems like a case of the bigger media outlets forcing the smaller outlet out of an exclusive. But is it really? If Street News Network was indeed a pool provider, then attribution wasn't necessary. Court TV provides the pool camera for the Karen Reed murder case, for example, without the expectation of credit for their work. While the other members of the pool may help with costs, it's really an informal agreement that allows use of the footage and keeps the party running the pool camera from keeping exclusives for themselves from the footage they shot. News 12 used the footage without attribution. However, they took things further and claimed that they had the exclusive with only their reporter in the courtroom when Jim Freedom was there and reporting. Perhaps they meant mainstream media in their statement. But it's insulting at best to claim an exclusive when they clearly knew that another reporter was there, let alone providing them with the actual footage. I know the line is blurred with everyone claiming to be a journalist on YouTube. I do not claim that title for this reason. I'm a blogger. I run a blog. But at the same time, I write stories, I distribute news, I report on things. If I hear something from another reporter or use another reporter's information, I do my best to provide credit for that information. I would hope that other outlets would do the same when using my reporting. In the case of News 12, despite how I may feel about Jim Freedom's activities outside of reporting, if they had a deal, they had a deal. Attribution is necessary. I personally dislike Aidan Turtleboy Kearney, but if he's the source of information, then I attribute that information to him. It's the right thing to do. News 12 was in the wrong for what they didn't do in this case. Again, as the line blurs and more YouTubers cross over into the mainstream media, there will be more cases like this. There will be more resistance, and there will be a lot more abuse of the term, but fair is fair. If Street News Network had a deal with News 12, News 12 should have abided by that deal. As always, if you'd like to keep us reporting new stories every day, we do have a GoFundMe of our own located in the scroll below. All proceeds go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing new stories to feature here on ReallyCoolSite.org. Benson stalks police in Inglewood. In her most bizarre live stream to date, Regan Benson spent her Saturday afternoon in Inglewood, stalking a police officer she named as Robert, while a manhunt was underway, cackling and catcalling police as events played out around her. The live stream started with Benson standing in a parking lot of a shopping center, with an ambulance and fire truck to her right, and police cars on her left. The two police cars pulled away at a tremendous rate of speed and tore out of the parking lot. Benson explained that the fire trucks were there for a second heat event, as she had been on scene earlier when an elderly black man was lying on the ground at the shopping center. She and another bystander assisted him, and she made a 911 call to get an ambulance on the scene. She continued to tell her story of helping the man as she got in her car to follow police cars, as an apparent manhunt was in progress. She claimed that the Inglewood 911 dispatcher gave her attitude and wanted to know information that was not pertinent to the incident and should have sent an ambulance immediately to the scene with no questions asked. Instead of an ambulance, in her story, two police officers arrived on scene and began to question what was going on and eventually had to request medical themselves, as the incompetent dispatchers never sent help. Benson switched from the story at this point to berate a police officer identified as Robert, who had been the subject of Benson's scorn over the past week, the homeless activist going so far as to share a negative post about him on her YouTube community page. Robert was standing on an elevated sidewalk observing other officers who were down a hill from him, acting as a spotter as they searched for the subject of the manhunt. Benson, standing several feet from the officer, hurled insults at the officer and criticized police techniques used by the officers before Robert ran to join all the other officers in pursuit of the suspect. The suspect was apprehended, and Benson raced back to police officer Rogers' car to see if he was going to get a ride back to his car. That process was interrupted as she interacted with a member of the SWAT team who had flown the drone that had found the suspect. Returning to her own car, Benson let her followers know that she did not see a need for police for daily issues. She felt that they were only required to be warriors and should face mandatory dismissal from the police force should they kill someone in the line of duty. Benson then updated her plans for the future, as she claimed she'll be focusing more on exposing corrupt cops in Denver once her current lawsuits are settled in the area, with a personal target of an officer who had an encounter with her husband in the past. No homeless outreach was attempted in the live stream. Flashback to June 16, 2023. DeCastro's copyright rampage continues. Jose Chile DeCastro's YouTube copyright strike rampage continued Thursday as he issued another series of copyright strikes against the Welsh News Network YouTube channel for allegedly violating YouTube's fair use policies. DeCastro apparently is targeting videos that mention his alleged extensive criminal history. This round of copyright infringement reporting was sparked by his failure to have WNN's recent video featuring the reading of the public documents related to his criminal history removed from YouTube for violating his privacy rights. Thursday saw DeCastro's alleged abuse of the copyright system be the focus of YouTubers Team Skeptic and Irish Demon's individual YouTube live streams. Both YouTubers indicated that they were in talks with YouTube representatives about efforts to stop DeCastro's alleged abuse of YouTube's copyright reporting system in order to quiet criticism from those he perceives as enemies. DeCastro has received harsh criticism from many YouTube creators as he allegedly frequently lashes out at other creators when he encounters criticism or times of great stress. His previous mass reporting spree came last year when he was able to use YouTube's copyright reporting system to temporarily take down channels belonging to Irish Demon, Dog Detective, after suffering perceived humiliation in his ongoing court case against Kate Peter, Josh Abrams, and others. The YouTuber also has received criticism as he is quick to strike channels for using his content. However, his recent broadcasts are filled with examples of DeCastro using content sourced from other YouTube channels without permission. His current reporting spree may have been sparked by his frustration in his multiple court cases, including his failure to have his Las Vegas criminal trial for interference and obstruction delayed over a claim that the criminal matter would somehow chill his rights in the civil trial he filed against the officers involved in his arrest. While DeCastro has claimed to have no knowledge of the Welsh News Network in the past, his previous attempts to strike the channel and his failed attempt to have his fans brigade the channel in order to have it removed earlier this year tell a different story. The Welsh News Network has not been directly named in the United States-based lawsuit as it is based in Wales, though WNN host Dan has mentioned the possibility of taking direct action against DeCastro in the courts of the United Kingdom. Another questionable night for Eline. Michael Eline's questionable performance on Jose Chile DeCastro's livestream brought about more questions than answers on Sunday, as his extraordinarily high viewership figures brought no donations at all to DeCastro's ongoing GoFundMe efforts. Sorry, a moment. Goose eggs! Glorious goose eggs. Zeros across the board. Sunday came and nothing happened. No weird random donations to fake chili GoFundMes. No pity $7 donations to make me go nuts. Just glorious goose eggs. It was a lovely thing to return to, and a reminder that if we get a complete 7 days without a donation for all these funds, this column goes on temporary retirement and life is glorious again. Oh, somebody, someone hear my pleas. It doesn't make any sense, though. at least in regard to at least one of the GoFundMes involving Jose Chile de Castro and that performance by Eline. Michael Eline had another live stream on de Castro's channel last night. Sunday night, Michael Eline, 600 views observed in the room when it was live. They were doing everything right, though. Gloria AD was literally spamming the GoFundMe stuff with an actual link to de Castro's real GoFundMe URL. BZ Watchdog was doing trifold commercials. They had a very active chat for 600 people, and the scroll was believable for that amount. But nobody donated. No changes have been observed in de Castro's GoFundMe accounts. Now, mind you, our opinion is that either Eline purchased viewers or somebody purchased them for him, as the post-live viewership has grown exponentially. 600 became 1,500, 1,500 became 2,000, and so on until, as of press time, the viewership is up to 21,000 viewers. There's absolutely nothing to justify that number, but it is what it is. When Eline does everything right, we have the weird bounce in numbers and absolutely no donations to the GoFundMes. You must wonder if the trifold and 1A cop card sales were also just as bad. De Castro, a trained pitchman, would often give up and just offer 2-for-1 deals and other gimmicks to make a handful of real sales over a 3-hour period. The most we saw him record or claim to record was 13 sales in a 3-hour period when he went into full-on pitchman mode. It was a mix of digital and real sales, and there may have been a sweatshirt in there, but that was the best he could do when he was live in front of a rabid audience. This is Eline. This is BZ Watchdog. You commend them for trying, but they're not de Castro. They're not born pitchmen, and most of their audience isn't real, just as 21,000 has changed to 30,000 viewers as I write this. I'm highly doubting they're making a real difference at this point. As always, if you'd like to make a real difference in our life and keep news stories coming every day, we do have a GoFundMe of our own located in the scroll below. All proceeds go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing news stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. Wallace gives up? Floyd Wallace has apparently either temporarily given up on live streaming on his foreign-only YouTube channel or has carried out the threat of shutting down the channel altogether as he hasn't live streamed in over a week. Wallace's apparent humiliation last week at the hands of the American women he attempted to seduce while live streaming may have been too much for the YouTuber. His post-date stream has been removed, and there's no evidence he's had a dedicated stream since then. The post-date stream saw the YouTuber threaten to shut down his channel and go find a real job. This was notable because it came after weeks of Wallace being excited about the prospect of doing daily live streams in the United States and feature women of a higher quality than those in his foreign-only videos. His sexual conquests and adventures were going to be the key to the channel. Until a meetup happened, he showed serious signs of depression, and he began talking about going to get a warehouse job or start to drive for Uber or DoorDash now that he was in the process of purchasing a car from his cousin. Setbacks aren't new to Floyd, but there are concerns since he hasn't failed on this level yet. The meeting of his Tinder friends seemed to be prearranged to have an outcome which he could use to advance his reputation as an international stud. He got rejected hard, and that dream ended quickly. It may have been enough for him to carry out his threat and sunset the channel. His News Now Omaha channel is still churning out 2 to 3 recycled videos a day, while his Corn Seasons production page remains dead. There was a Floyd Moments Volume 1 compilation video released to his foreign-only channel 2 days ago, but no other word than that. Wallace is still scheduled to go on trial in Oklahoma in August, with a jury selection date set for August 14th on charges of obstructing an officer from last year. It is doubtful that he has left the country due to this, plus the fact that he was strapped for cash when we last saw him. On his last recording, he was asking for donations for both funding to buy the car he was renting and to make the roughly $500 he lost when it was billed for medical services from the Dominican Republic for a second time. We'll continue to monitor the situation and bring updates as we get them. Update: Floyd went live for over 2 hours this afternoon. He seems to be alive.
He says that he will be limiting his live streams to when he has an actual topic to talk about and not just random live streams in the afternoons.
Flashback to June 17, 2023. Benson rage quits internal affairs complaint. Activist for homelessness Regan Benson rage quit a complaint session with an Inglewood, Colorado internal affairs sergeant on Friday after accusing the man of not truly listening to her complaints about resource provider All Help. Benson, later joined by Aurora Transparency, live-streamed from the Inglewood Police Department on Friday, where she had planned to make a formal complaint against the city's administration of the All Health Service contract with the city. The controversial YouTube personality stated that the All Health contract was being mismanaged, as no one from All Health had contacted her friends Shelley and Gino, who were living in Centennial Park, in person in the month since she personally contacted All Health last month. Before meeting with the Internal Affairs investigator, Benson stormed through the building on her way to the bathroom, stopping by the portraits of police and fire department officials. The All Health contract is managed through the police department, and Benson warned her viewers to note the names and faces of the people involved in the administration of the contract, as she will be raising complaints about them later. After a dramatic reaction to teasing by her livestream viewers, who used side chat to pretend that she did not mute her phone before urinating, Benson sat down with an internal affairs investigator to file her complaint, later being joined by Aurora Transparency. The duo stated their complaints and recounted their current situation with All Health. When the investigator related that at one point in the past he personally paid for a hotel room to be used by a homeless person, Benson began to berate him, and both she and Aurora Transparency demanded he personally take over case management of Gino and Shelley's case. The investigator indicated that he could not do that since it was not part of his job, and Benson began to scream at the man, accusing him of not listening to her, before angrily getting his information and storming out of the building. Regrouping, Aurora Transparency, who was working as a case manager for Benson's private charity, revealed to Benson that she had fallen out of touch with Gino and Shelley and had no idea if they were still in Centennial Park or needed the help of All Health. Benson returned to her car and gave a lengthy statement about Jesse, the homeless man she had housed in a hotel, until the pair had a falling out and he returned to the street. She indicated that an investigator from the Fentanyl Task Force was ordered to call her with updates on her inquiries into Jesse's death. The YouTuber confirmed that she was told by the investigator that signs of blunt force trauma on the autopsy were from emergency officials trying to save Jesse's life. Their attempts at CPR and starting 2 IVs to help revive him, causing bruising and trauma to his body. Benson, wearing a portion of Jesse's ashes around her neck and a novelty necklace, also claimed that she was told that the person who reported Jesse's body was a dentist who had an office in the area and asked the police not to follow up with him. Stating that the dentist was a doctor, as dentists receive basic medical training, she speculated that the dentist could have intervened and saved Jesse's life, but chose not to do so for some reason. While she was not going to press the issue or identify the dentist, she ended the live stream with speculation that the dentist could have possibly saved Jesse's life and bore some blame for the homeless man's death from the overdose that ultimately took his life. DMA Wednesday and GoFundMe race. Christopher Denver Metro Audits Cordova sidestepped Regan Benson's spectacular performance at the Inglewood City Council meeting Monday night to livestream from his home, and it ultimately may have given him the Monday GoFundMe crown. Wait, what? The fund hadn't had a donation in over a month, and it was considered almost as dead as Press with Rancor's ridiculous campaign. It would get big donations here and there, but at no point was it seriously active, nor was there a sign that it would break the $1,000 point, let alone the $20,000 it was seeking. Is this some sort of gag? Cordova won the day by taking in $55 to his Defend DMA in the Fight Against Corruption and Oath Breakers Fund, from 3 donations that came in right around the time of his live stream from his home Monday night. The YouTuber bypassed his normal appearance with Regan Benson at the Inglewood City Council meeting.
Cordova has a long history of appearing with Benson there and is known for talking about his belief that pornography should be allowed to be accessed on computers at the Inglewood Public Library in full view of the public. Other frequent topics that he normally gets into at the city council meetings include his ongoing war with city council members Steve Ward and Joe Anderson. Cordova has been at odds with the men and called them out publicly since they appeared on the Frauditor Troll YouTube channel to discuss his antics some time ago. Cordova has also been threatening to spearhead a recall campaign for Ward's city council seat, which was supposed to start in early June but has yet to materialize. It is unclear how Cordova, a non-resident of the city, would be able to proceed with his plans for the recall. The YouTuber spent the evening at home, streaming to his audience about mental health and other issues. No explanation was given for his failure to appear with Benson in Inglewood in the brief minutes we had to review his video before he removed it from public view. Cordova launched his GoFundMe campaign in early spring of this year in order to help him with the cost of his ongoing federal and local criminal charges. It has never been very active and had gone over a month without a donation, so the activity is unusual for this campaign, perhaps proving that he'd have more success by continuing the pattern and ditching Regan Benson altogether. De Castro due in court today. Jose Chili de Castro is set to appear in California court today as part of the latest hearing in his lawsuit against Kate Peter, Team Skeptic, Daniel Clement, and Michael Blue Bacon Paratini. The YouTuber is expected to miss his fourth or fifth hearing in a row today, as he is incarcerated in the Clark County, Nevada Detention Center and apparently has not attempted to attend the hearings, resulting in a string of losses in rulings in the lawsuit. Today's hearing, according to the declaration of Paratini's attorney, will see a substitute attorney fill that attorney's role as he is involved in a federal trial at the scheduled time and date of the hearing. The declaration indicates that the attorney had not received any discovery from De Castro since De Castro was ordered to provide discovery. He has also not received any communication from De Castro nor payment of the previous monetary sanctions owed to Paratini and his lawyer from previous rulings. The attorney claims that he has no idea where De Castro is or why he's ignoring the case. While it's widely known that De Castro has been incarcerated in the Clark County Detention Center for over 2 months, De Castro himself has not updated the court as to his whereabouts, as he is required to do so. Because of this, the attorney is asking for a new round of sanctions against De Castro in the form of $4,560 in sanctions, as De Castro has not attempted to schedule the deposition he was ordered to sit for in previous rulings. The attorney is also asking the judge in the case to order De Castro to sit for the deposition within the next 30 days. The attorney also asked for the court to set up an order to show cause, since De Castro has been ignoring the case and has run up the attorney's fees for Paratini because of it. De Castro filed suit in early 2023, as his previous lawsuit in federal court against Kate Peter and others had morphed from a harassment and defamation-based lawsuit into a copyright lawsuit against Peter and her co-defendants in YouTube Google itself. After revising the lawsuit, he filed the current lawsuit in California's Superior Court to go after Peter and individuals he claimed to be part of the masshole troll mafia, including Paratini, Skeptic, Clement, and a number of John Doe defendants. In the year and a half the lawsuit has been active, De Castro has failed to state what actions he is holding Paratini responsible for, as Paratini is the only active defendant in the case, and apparently has been unwilling to cooperate with any action that would result in moving the lawsuit forward. A ruling by Judge H.J. Ford III is expected in the case later today. De Castro may have gotten some good news on Tuesday, as a new listing for De Castro's upcoming trial in the city of Las Vegas for obstructing an officer seems to have been moved to August. The YouTuber was originally due in court next week for a pre-trial hearing in the case. The new listing seems to indicate that the hearing has been continued until August 13th at 1:30 p.m. local time. We will continue to monitor De Castro's court records and update them as we receive new information. Benson melts down in Inglewood. Again. YouTube enthusiast and sometime advocate for the homeless, Regan Benson returned to the Inglewood Civic Center on Monday night in order to confront the council over her alleged mistreatment at the hands of emergency dispatchers. Benson was not scheduled to speak in advance for the public feedback portion of the event and was without sidekick Christopher Denver Metro Audits Cordova Monday night as she entered the facility. She briefly observed the 6 Inglewood police officers who were on hand to deal with an ongoing undisclosed threat at the meeting, before focusing her attention on a man named Chris, who Benson claimed had been in a fight with a homeless individual Saturday night. In both Benson's version of the story and the story that Chris would later share in his remarks during the public feedback session, he arrived at a local Walmart Saturday night and heard screaming from people engaged with the homeless man who was having some sort of meltdown. He yelled at the man, who then ran over to him and hit him in the face multiple times before he could exit his vehicle. Chris then got out of his car and knocked the man unconscious, ending the threat until an ambulance arrived to take the man away. Police refused to press charges against the man at the hospital, where Benson claimed the man assaulted various workers and let him go later that night without helping the man, who was in obvious mental distress. While in the hospital, Benson said she ran into the elderly black man who she had helped earlier on Saturday after he suffered a heat stroke. She claimed he had suffered a head injury and could have died on the scene since Inglewood emergency dispatchers gave her the runaround. The story continued as Benson made her own comments to the Inglewood City Council. In her new version of the story, Benson claimed that the emergency dispatchers were conspiring against her and refusing to get her help because she favored a Canadian fraudster troll who was able to convince them to press charges against her with a single phone call. The man she was helping on Saturday would have died not because she had refused to share pertinent information with the dispatchers, as she stated on her Saturday live stream, but because they were biased against her and refused to send an emergency vehicle to help the man because of that bias. The incident, in which Benson was charged with harassment and resulted in her temporary ban from the Inglewood Library, was now an innocent interaction on her part. The security guard had personally harassed her for 30 minutes over the use of the bathroom, denying her urgency, and she simply reacted to the harassment by following him around for 30 minutes, hurling insults at him, and telling him to quit his job. Benson's bizarre behavior continued as she decided to leave the meeting and walked up to Inglewood Police Chief Sam Watson, who was sitting at the rear of the room listening to the meeting. The YouTuber started to confront him when he shushed her and indicated that he was watching the meeting. This was apparently classified as starting shit with Benson, and she decided to stand there filming him for another 30 minutes while insulting him to her live stream side chat before leaving the building. Benson complained about her safety as she exited the city council meeting room, and an allied security officer escorted her to her car. During the walk, Benson encouraged the man just to leave his post as it was late, and complained loudly about Watson to the guard. The livestream ended abruptly as Benson declared she had a better offer and had to leave immediately, ending another bizarre night in Inglewood. Flashback, June 18th, 2023. DeCastro turns traffic stop into trifold commercial. Jose Chili DeCastro livestreamed from a traffic stop in the Las Vegas, Nevada area Saturday night. DeCastro, 48, walked up to the scene, briefly said hello to the driver that was pulled over, then approached the police officer conducting the stop and politely explained that he was a First Amendment auditor and that he would be filming and not interfering in the traffic stop. The auditor returned to a safe distance from the stopped vehicle to record when he noticed a police officer preparing to write a citation on his own car, which was illegally parked facing the wrong direction on the wrong side of the street. DeCastro calmly asked if he could move his car before receiving the citation. The officer replied in the affirmative, and DeCastro moved his car before returning to the scene. As DeCastro returned to the initial traffic stop, the police officer approached the driver with citation and left the scene. DeCastro approached the driver, an African-American middle-aged man, and the driver explained that he had been pulled over for expired license plates. The YouTuber then checked the car's license plates and confirmed that yes, they were a month out of date. Never missing an opportunity to promote his trifold, DeCastro handed the man a copy of his indestructible trifold and made the man practice the touchdown position on camera before ending the stream.
Long Island audits Wednesday again. We're repeating a pattern. Long Island audit Wednesday on single minuscule donation. I'd say it was a massive conspiracy on the part of my readers to drive me insane by forcing me to continue this column, but you all don't hate me that much, do you? I mean, seriously, do you? I mean, yeah, we're starting to hit algorithms on YouTube, and we're getting that one guy who is choosing to reply to some of the old newscasts from a week ago and asking why we're reporting old news a week after they'd aired. But, I mean, he hates me and my monotone voice, and I think I blocked him because I don't feed the trolls, but why do the rest of you hate me? A single $10 donation to support the Fight Against Tyranny and Corruption Fund took the day for Sean Paul Long Island Audit Riaz. Riaz is already pissing me off as I can't remember if he goes by audit or audits in his title half the time, and frankly, it doesn't matter as he's going to do his job rolling in dough for defending your rights and suing for big financial gain again. Maybe that should be my new profession. Drum up fake lawsuits against anyone who has money. It seems to be working for Long Island Audits and James Freeman. I mean, a good payout and you're set for a while in the name of freedom. Freedom, that's it. It would mean leaving the house, of course, but hey, the things I do in the name of making a buck, freedom, should add to my fame as I have an allergic reaction to the world. Crawl up into a ball and forget the idea of leaving the house again. Can I just do everything through Zoom calls and forget the world? Please? Old-time hockey? Eddie Shore? Putting on the foil? Where was I? Oh, yes. Not enough for McDonald's meal in the state of New York, but enough to carry the day and remind us of what pushed Riaz to victory on Tuesday. McDonald's. It also means another week of this column and another XLS of this data gets sent to Shuggy whenever I get around to sending it. No one else saw a dime donated to them on Tuesday, and curiously, that included Jose Chili de Castro, who collected another 1,000 views on Michael Eline's Sunday night broadcast on his channel, which seemed to have finally topped out at 31,000 viewers. Weirdly, de Castro's live premiere of his reply to the response of his appeal on his Las Vegas conviction, released on Tuesday, has only done 3,700 views in the 13 hours of release, which is not suspicious at all. But that's digressing. It didn't hit the algorithm. Yeah, that's it. With that, I'm returning to my cage and I'll work on my monotone delivery as I'm stuck for another week of reporting on these campaigns. Somebody kill me, please. Brutal day for defense in Karen Reed trial. After a series of admittedly not-so-good days for the prosecution in the Karen Reed case, as a key witness failed to connect with the viewers, it was the defense's turn to suffer a setback on Tuesday as a star witness fizzled under scrutiny. The jury was not present for Tuesday's extended voir dire hearings to determine if the defense witnesses should be allowed to testify in this case. 2 of the 3 witnesses were previously used by a federal agency when it was investigating the district attorney's prosecution of Karen Reed at the request of the Reed family. Currently, the federal agency has not issued a report or a final statement on their investigation into supposed wrongdoing on the part of the district attorney's office. Before the trial began, all major witnesses for the prosecution who had interviewed for the agency were told that they were suspected of doing nothing wrong and would not be facing federal charges. This left a lot of information for the defense to use. It was a rare case where the defense's call for the federal government to investigate the prosecution of their client actually did a lot of legwork for what they'll be relying on to defend Reed from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts prosecution. 2 of those resources, Dr. Andrew Richleiter and Dr. Daniel Wolf, are both from a company called ARCA that contracts out to provide crash reconstructions for the government. These men were part of a team that wrote a report that the defense claimed would exonerate Reed, as the report showed that the injuries on victim John O'Keefe were inconsistent with that of a vehicle strike. The defense claimed that they were unable to interview the men until now due to their status as witnesses for the federal agency, which is why their backgrounds and what they were testifying about were withheld from the discovery process. The defense claimed that they would be learning about the evidence that they would be presenting at this voir dire hearing. Judge Beverly Canone was skeptical of the defense's assertions at best, grilling attorney Alan Jackson over the exclusion of the witnesses and their data in the discovery process. Tuesday's testimony for both men saw both praised for their good looks and their poise while testifying, as it is their profession to do so, as compared to Joseph Paul, the prosecution's witness in crash reconstruction. However, once on the stand, the men did not absolutely rule out indicating that O'Keefe was struck by Reed's vehicle, based on the fact that their evidence was not enough to be included in findings by the federal agency, and the federal agency did not press charges or intervene in the case based on their findings. It does not seem that what they brought to the case would be damaging to the prosecution of Reed. They were a disappointment to the defense, as prosecutor Adam Lally had no real objection to having the men's limited testimony included as part of the defense, as their findings were inconclusive. This was not the case for the third witness the defense presented on Tuesday. Before the immaculate and radiant visages of government contractors, the defense presented Dr. Marie Russell, a witness who was going to prove that the wounds on O'Keefe's arm were due to dog bites or scratches. Russell set off red flags with Judge Canone as the defense admitted that they only found her to testify weeks into the case. The doctor admitted that she had read about the case in the Boston Globe and came forward as she had previous experience in dog bites and thought she could help the defense. She then contacted a friend of Jackson's in Los Angeles who put her in touch with the defense in the case. Her story conflicted with the story attorney Alan Jackson claimed, as he said he sought out Russell's testimony himself. Judge Canone dressed down Jackson for the untruth that had been presented to her about the origins of Russell's testimony and found that the defense had committed a Rule 14 violation. Jackson became indignant to the accusation that the defense did anything wrong and dramatically stood up to the notion that they should somehow be punished for any wrongdoing in the case. Judge Canone stood firm in a ruling that the violation in the discovery process had occurred, as the defense did not properly disclose anything about their expert witness. It may have gone better for the defense if the witness had proved competent or compelling evidence on the stand, but her testimony boiled down to the fact that she had done studies in the 1990s and was involved in hundreds of cases involving police-trained animals, again in the 1990s, and with that all of her training and expertise, she could only say that the marks on O'Keefe's arms were probably made by a dog, either scratching or biting O'Keefe. Russell did not provide a written report of her findings, offered no evidence as to why her conclusions should be accepted, and admitted that she did not look at the evidence provided that ruled out canine DNA on the wounds of the victim or the extensive bite history documented by investigators from the dog that the defense claimed attacked O'Keefe. Her testimony was a dramatic and spectacular failure for Jackson. After all the controversy and mystery surrounding the expert, she literally testified that she was a fan who wanted to be involved in the case and really had nothing to offer with her testimony. Judge Canone indicated that she would have a ruling on Russell's testimony on Thursday, after the Juneteenth holiday break, and if she allowed Russell to testify, she'd give prosecutor Adam Lally an opportunity to present a rebuttal witness out of fairness. The Karen Reed murder trial will continue on Thursday. De Castro replies in appeals case. A confident Jose Chile de Castro released his latest jailhouse statement on Tuesday to coincide with the reply to the responding brief filed by his attorney, Christopher Oram, in his appeal of his conviction on charges for obstructing police and interfering in a traffic stop. In his lengthy audio statement, de Castro promised that he would be suing Justice of the Peace Ann Zimmerman for allegedly conspiring with her bailiff to trigger him before his case was heard on the day of the trial. Their alleged actions, according to de Castro, were responsible for his lack of decorum in court and gave Zimmerman the opportunity to punish de Castro for improper behavior, at times claiming that he was apologetic for insulting the bailiff, as he felt court was not the place for insults. De Castro almost immediately contradicted himself by saying that he was justified in calling the bailiff a pig because that bailiff acted like one, and De Castro said he would stand by his comments. De Castro also promised that he would be suing Zimmerman for allegedly not allowing his friends and family into the courtroom on the day of his motion for reconsideration. despite a report by Alex Falcone of our Nevada judges that everyone who had shown up on time for DeCastro's hearing was allowed into the courtroom. DeCastro claimed that Zimmerman would not allow his friends and family into the courtroom for the hearing. The jailed YouTuber further claimed that 8 members of his friends and family would be signing on to the pending lawsuit against Justice of the Peace Zimmerman, exclaiming that he had expected a big payout from Clark County, Nevada for Zimmerman's alleged misdeeds. DeCastro was confident that he could sue Zimmerman and that Zimmerman would later face public trial from the press. As far as DeCastro's response to the reply, it was the same rehash of the incomprehensible argument he was making in his 150-page argument that started the appeal. Nothing new was offered, and he stood by his assertion that he did nothing wrong, stood a fair enough distance away from the officer, and could not be a threat, and that Justice of the Peace Zimmerman was conspiring against him as she was a biased actor in the case. In more good news for DeCastro, it was revealed Tuesday that he had another day removed from his sentence, and now he'll be out of jail on July 31st, 2024. There have been no updates about his court hearing that was set for Tuesday in his California-based lawsuit against Kate Peter, Team Skeptic, Daniel Clement, and Michael Blue Bacon Paratini as of press time. DeWitt trial delayed again. Those turning in for coverage of Jeremy DeWitt's trial will be disappointed by our reporting today as we bring you something you've heard before. The case has been delayed again due to a scheduling issue. According to YouTube channels The Jeremy DeWitt Show by PoliceTube's uncle and So You Dated Police Impersonator, DeWitt was grouped on the docket with another case that was set to share resources with his case. The defendant in that case decided to reject a plea deal, and the pool of 40 assembled jurors were then used to seat a jury for that case, as it came first. The case went to trial on Tuesday, has a break today for the Juneteenth holiday, and is expected to go to the jury by the end of the day on Thursday, leaving the verdict for Friday. DeWitt, who has pled not guilty to the Osceola County, Florida charges, is expected to have his case start on Monday or Tuesday of next week, with the selection of a jury from a new jury pool and then the trial itself for the remainder of the week. This is a familiar pattern for long-term followers of the case, as there has been a lingering rumor since the trial date was announced last week that DeWitt would not go on trial this week for undisclosed reasons. While the rumors of DeWitt taking a last-minute plea deal or a state agency stepping in to acquit DeWitt at the last minute didn't play out, it was another delay for someone who has been considered the master of delay tactics and avoiding punishment for his misdeeds over the years. DeWitt currently is on trial in Osceola County for probation violations and violations of terms and conditions of his sex offender status, and may finally go on trial for the charges next week. He is also facing similar charges in Orange County and outstanding tax evasion charges in federal court. Flashback June 19th, 2023, Chile DeCastro's wild live stream. A motivated Jose Chile DeCastro livestreamed for nearly 2 hours on Sunday night, covering various topics, including his new stance against censorship. DeCastro stated that as YouTube China was censoring him, he would no longer censor trolls on the channel, other than for brief timeouts and live chats that would later be lifted. The diminutive YouTuber tested this stance early as he mistook Uncle Artie of Uncle Artie's Bar and Grill for Artie of Artie's Corporate Fiction, bragging that he defeated Uncle Artie in a debate on Team Skeptic's channel. DeCastro would repeat the error throughout the broadcast, only to be told the difference between the two Arties by NCR News Network at the end of the broadcast. Uncle Artie would later release a statement on Kate Peters' Chili Watch Discord forum. Here's the irony. He literally sneaked into the back of a Dallas federal courthouse last year while I was out front waiting on him while I was doing a live stream. When you're scared of facing me, you're definitely a coward. I literally can't fight to save my life, yet he does this. That's twice he's defamed me. One more time and I'll sue him. He defamed me. He basically was saying I am a highfalutin, making 5-6 figures lawyer with a majorly popular YouTube channel. That bastard! He did a Freudian slip and said he had a 50% administrative fee for a fundraiser he was doing. Those of us that heard it think he meant out of everything he does. He claims he is transparent. Then fine, show the receipts. Show us your tax records. You still have to pay taxes on super chats, regardless of donating every penny to a charity. GoFundMe is not considered a tax write-off or a donation, so he's full of shit. DeCastro spent nearly an hour interviewing YouTuber Walt Kelly, who is fighting against police corruption in Rankin County, Mississippi. The YouTuber sat through a number of Kelly's stories before dismissing him and attempting to call flood the Rankin County Sheriff's Department to put in a complaint on Kelly's behalf. Reaching the after-hours line, DeCastro was asked to call back between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. local time, Monday through Friday, if he wanted to reach an actual member of law enforcement. The YouTuber would claim that YouTube China was conspiring against him and apparently withholding his ceremonial 100,000 subscriber plaque, stating that YouTube told him it would have to review his channel before giving him the award. DeCastro's emotions later spiraled as he pondered about his destiny. He said that he would not let violence taint his legacy like Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X did, and that he would never harm anyone unless they threatened him, and he would not be stopped from using deadly force. Wistfully mentioning Ironton Police Captain Chad Gu, he claimed that Gu had set him up for murder in their scheduled cage fight last year, and that he regretted not beating up Gu at a local gym in Ironton instead of agreeing to a more mainstream fight. As the livestream wound down, DeCastro declared that he was going to sue YouTube again for discrimination, and that Sergeant Martinez of the Las Vegas Police Department was also going to be sued. In the Martinez case, DeCastro said he was going to go for summary judgment to prevent the police from interfering in his on-scene news reporting. DeCastro is set to officially announce his next lawsuits tomorrow morning in a taped premiere on both of his YouTube channels. The YouTuber is also silencing critics by placing multiple false copyright strikes on channels who have questioned his statements. Goose eggs, no winners in war. Oh, goose eggs, how I've missed you so. With the world focusing elsewhere as it's the solstice and everyone online is lining up to kill each other, it's glorious to know that, for at least one day, humanity can't be saved, and no one gave these people anything. Defend DMA in the fight against corruption and Oathbreakers stands at $570 today, out of a goal of $20,000 and a 2.85% completion rate. Way to go, Christopher Cordova. Craig Hendries, to support Craig's work, sits at $2,467 out of a $4,000 goal and a 61% completion rate. Press with Ranker stands, well, where it always stands, $2,406 out of a $45,000 goal and a 5% completion rate. DirectD's Help Christopher Ruff, DirectD, Clear His Name Fund, is sticking to the ground at $11,365 out of a $100,000 goal and an 11% completion rate. I'd pivot to journalism too, since these court cases aren't gonna pay for themselves. The fake GoFundMe for Jose Chili DeCastro sits at $351, raised out of a $20,000 goal and a 1% completion rate. Every single dime is going to DeCastro. Honest, yeah. Give it to a scammer instead of DeCastro if you're gonna give it. Or just pledge it to keep this column going forever and ever. But, no. DeCastro's lawyer fund only, all dollars go to lawyer, is closer to completion at an 82% completion rate, raising $20,702 out of a $25,000 goal. His legal fund, donation fund, Help People Fund has a 76% completion rate and has earned $26,735 out of a $35,000 goal. Both are good, but what happened to his legal defense fund, crime scene fund, tape, illegal arrest campaign? It's sitting at roughly 8% completion, with only $2,315 out of a $30,000 goal. Even with hearings in the case moved to August, it's still not achieving like it should be. For Public Safety's Fight Fraud Recovered Fund is doing better at a 43% completion rate and $3,687 out of an $8,500 goal. Even with Fraud at Wrangler's daily harping on this one, there's been no movement at all lately. Which brings us to the only real contender left, Sean Paul Long Island Audits Riaz. 4 campaigns. Guess what they all have in common? His unlawful arrest and constitutional rights fund is stuck at a 23% completion rate, with $3,301 raised out of a $10,000 goal. The Support the Fight Against Tyranny and Corruption fund is at 93% completion and has raised $51,156 out of a $55,000 goal. The most impressive take so far out of all the auditors we've covered. LIA's Fund Legal Defense Against Unlawful Arrest is also close to completion, with an 81% completion rate and $16,311 raised out of a $20,000 goal. His help with criminal defense attorney for this case fund is at an impressive 86% completion rate, with $21,650 raised out of a $25,000 goal. Lastly, his Help LIA with Legal Fees to Fight Tyrants lawsuit fund is now at $1,891 out of a $2,500 goal and sits at a 75% completion rate. What's the common denominator in all these takes, folks? Goose eggs across the board. Goose eggs. Glorious, glorious goose eggs. The countdown is on. 6 more days of goose eggs, and this column retires. We can do it. Put your back into it. No more GoFundMe coverage. We can do it. Let's go! As always, if you'd like to keep us reporting daily news stories each day, we do have a GoFundMe of our own located in the scroll below. All proceeds go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing news stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. DeCastro Great Lakes Audit's warrant dropped. Jose Chile DeCastro got some more good news on Wednesday, as the warrant for his arrest based on charges made against him by YouTuber Great Lakes Audits in Oregon, Ohio, has been withdrawn. The charges stem from a November 2022 incident where Kate Peter and DeCastro were in the side chat of a fundraiser in order to raise bail money for YouTuber Broken System Broken Trust. Peter offered enough money on behalf of the Masshole Troll Mafia to meet the goal for the bail in exchange for a mod timing out DeCastro. Great Lakes Audits complied with the request, triggering DeCastro. DeCastro allegedly confronted Great Lakes Audit via direct message and continued to make threats after Great Lakes Audits asked for no more communication between the two. Great Lakes Audit went to the police and made a police report, resulting in the warrant that was issued but never carried out since 2022. The charges were listed as telecommunications harassment, knowingly make call to harass or abuse, and the bond was set at $2,500. The warrant had been alive but inactive since then, as DeCastro has not returned to Ohio, and Oregon, Ohio police were not going to extradite the YouTuber. In September 2023, Great Lakes Audit made a deal with DeCastro to drop the charges against him in exchange for DeCastro doing a fundraiser for Great Lakes Audit's ongoing legal expenses. The planned fundraiser never materialized, and while Great Lakes Audits claimed that he was going to have the charges against DeCastro lifted, he either never did or he did and the warrant was never lifted. It was officially lifted on June 11, 2024, when it was ordered withdrawn, and the case was dismissed without cost. No reason was given for the dismissal of the case. Special thanks to PDocs of the public documents of Jose Maria Chile DeCastro for providing screenshots and verifying the change. Prosecution set to wrap up in Karen Reed case. The prosecution in the Karen Reed murder case was set to wrap up its case on Friday, with a final handful of scheduled witnesses set to testify and the expected introduction of communications between alleged murderer Karen Reed and victim John O'Keefe. Reporter Grant Smith Ellis shared a link earlier in the week to a document reported to contain text messages from the day of the murder between Reed and O'Keefe, parts of which were read in court on Monday before wrapping for the day. Despite being comically read on the Really Cool News All-Star panel show on Wednesday night, the conversation contains a lot of hints at the relationship at the time of the alleged murder, with both participants seeming less than enthused with each other. Reed had already begun an attempt at a relationship with ATF agent Brian Higgins, who she had kissed at O'Keefe's home during a gathering and had been text messaging. In those messages, she explained that she wanted a relationship without children and seemed to confuse Higgins with her aggressive pursuit of him despite his friendship with O'Keefe. The messages also came after the Aruba incident, where Reed publicly accused O'Keefe of kissing a family friend when she mistook an innocent hug for something else. That incident led to O'Keefe allegedly trying to end the relationship with Reed and asking her to move out of his house. The texts start on the morning of the alleged murder, and by afternoon, Reed seems to be instigating a continuation of the fight that happened that morning. She stated that she wanted to go for drinks and inquired about O'Keefe's plans for the evening. O'Keefe seemed ambivalent about going out due to the snowstorm that was moving into the area and his seeming need to take a break from Reed. Reed began to push O'Keefe into a meeting and became distraught when O'Keefe did not answer her multiple phone calls. Reed became increasingly odd and angry throughout the afternoon, baiting O'Keefe with different things in order to get him to respond, including alluding to his adopted children being home alone and bringing up calling a plumber who lived near her in order to fix her hot water heater at her separate residence. O'Keefe objected to the plumber as his father was visiting him, and the two men could simply come over and fix the plumbing issues at no expense to Reed. Reed continued to press to have the plumber come over, and the conversation left off with her having the plumber come over, have the plumber leave to get more parts, and then O'Keefe agreeing to meet with her later that hour for drinks. Despite the defense portraying Reed and O'Keefe's body chemistry on recordings from the bars they went to that evening as a loving, caring couple, the texts leading up to the outing were anything but. O'Keefe was distant to Reed throughout the exchanges, and Reed attempted to manipulate O'Keefe into calling her to get into another apparent confrontation over the fight they had that morning. Reed is accused of drunkenly hitting O'Keefe with her car later that night after dropping him off at Brian Albert's house for an after-party. O'Keefe would later die in a combination of his injuries from the incident and hypothermia after Reed allegedly left him to die in the snowstorm. The defense is expected to get the case early next week. Flashback, June 20th, 2023. DeCastro explains Juneteenth. Proclaiming himself a leader who is leading tens of thousands of people, Jose Chile de Castro spent his Juneteenth live segment exploring the holiday's true history and how it related to his history of lynching in the United States poster. The poster, which is available for sale in both digital and physical form on his website, was put together over 2 years and features de Castro's extreme beliefs of black life in America. De Castro spent 2 hours explaining his poster, peppering his speech with such tidbits as his belief that comedian Steve Martin stole his act from Al Jolson, and that former Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a racist. Turning his attention to his own personal issues, de Castro described himself as being baptized in the fires of hell, but being a new man with a new lease on life. He reaffirmed his belief in freedom of speech while continuing to strike any YouTube channel that questioned his personal beliefs with copyright strikes. Early Tuesday morning, de Castro again delayed his announcement of his latest lawsuit. Instead, he substituted a video of his recent confrontation with Officer Jesse Sandoval of the Las Vegas Metro Police Department. De Castro alleges that Sandoval tortured him while he was in police custody during his March arrest. The YouTuber alleges, without providing medical proof, that Sandoval permanently damaged his ulnar nerve, causing permanent numbness in his left hand. The 11-minute video features de Castro verbally harassing and insulting Sandoval during a traffic stop at a Las Vegas gas station. A driver was pulled over for missing a rear license plate, and de Castro became triggered when Sandoval arrived. De Castro interacted with the female driver involved in the stop, telling her that he didn't have a bazooka in his pants, and later assuring her that there was nothing in his pants that could be used in violence. After the police left, de Castro confronted the driver about not having a copy of her insurance card in a laminated card to hand to police, and the fact that she did not record her interaction with police, the driver placating de Castro until he wandered away from the scene. 2 days of glorious goose eggs. For the second straight day in a row, the world's greatest auditors failed to bring in a dime from their fans, and their GoFundMe campaigns lay lifeless, casualties of high heat, apathy, and, well, the summertime blues. It's summer now in North America, with the solstice tearing through the country like bad cheese through an old man's intestines. I'm not going to go with this and, technical issues? Too weird for the viewership, and take two. Despite the heat, apathy in America currently rejecting anything to do with auditors, there will always be a need for First Amendment auditors for at least someone for tired folks to point at and laugh at while writing weird columns at 4:30 a.m. The king of all auditors, of course, is Jose Chile de Castro. He's jailed now. He got in the face of a cop in Las Vegas and didn't understand that in Vegas, anarchy isn't going to win. In the old days, the mob probably would have made him yet another occupant of a hole in the desert, never to be found for hundreds of years, much like every other tourist and yahoo who'd come through making too many loud noises in the pre-Howard Hughes days of the mob in Vegas. Vegas got arguably worse after the mob was bought out by corporations. The sole purpose of the town is to be a destination where nice, hard-working people lose all their money to the casinos. It really is that simple. The corporations want to present a fairly nice place to go to relax, mildly indulge, and whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And, of course, lose all your money to the casinos. They recently changed roulette to make it harder to win, raised minimums on all table games, and tightened up slot machines to the point where there has been some pushback. Not enough pushback to stop the average American coming to lose all their money while in town, but enough to note and avoid if you're smart with your money. Vegas is all about order. Vegas is about control. Vegas is going to win because they run the system there, and really there isn't a chance for folks like DeCastro to run their mouths and try to change the system. Vegas sees millions of loudmouth tourists a day, and I would guesstimate that 1 in 100,000 pull the same games as DeCastro did, and they try to get a fat payoff from the police by staging an incident to give them standing to sue. And they never win. You don't win in Vegas, no matter how loud you are. You don't go against the system, you don't attack judges or send your people to petition them to force them to do anything. DeCastro is playing a losing hand in Vegas, and with 40 days to go before he's released, he may want to rethink and go for easier targets where the system isn't literally rigged against him and everyone else. As always, if you'd like to keep us reporting news stories every day, we do have a GoFundMe of our own located in the scroll below. All proceeds go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing news stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. Controversial witness to testify in Karen Reed case, updated. Judge Beverly Canone ruled on Thursday that controversial defense witness Dr. Marie Russell would be allowed to testify in the Karen Reed murder trial in a very limited scope when the defense presents their case this week. Russell, a self-admitted fangirl for the case, approached a friend to put her in touch with the defense in the case last month. She felt that her experience with dog bites would help their case after reading about it in the Boston Globe. Defense attorney Alan Jackson reached out to her and provided her with evidence, and she came to the conclusion that injuries on victim John O'Keefe's arm were caused by a dog, though she couldn't tell if they were bites or scratch marks. Russell also did not review an extensive report that was included in the evidence on the bite marks from the dog who had been accused of biting O'Keefe, who apparently attacked someone months after O'Keefe's murder, nor did she review a report stating that there was no canine DNA found in the wounds. The prosecution objected as her inclusion came after the trial had been underway and the witness the prosecution had brought on to testify about dog bites had already testified. There were also questions as to what Russell would testify to and what her background is, as they were not briefed in advance by the defense as part of the discovery process. Judge Canone ruled that the defense violated Rule 14 of discovery, but would allow Russell to testify that she believed the wounds were dog bites and nothing further. It is unclear if she'll allow the prosecution a rebuttal witness as previously promised. Also of note, Canone ruled that Dr. Daniel Wolf would be allowed to testify to his accident reconstruction report. However, Dr. Andrew Renslater would require another hearing to determine if he would be allowed to testify. The problem with Renslater is that he is not a medical doctor, and only medical doctors are allowed to testify in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts as to the cause of injuries. That hearing is expected to happen next week. Update. The prosecution rested today, and the defense called Russell to testify at Friday's hearing. Russell could not provide conclusive evidence that the marks on John O'Keefe's arm were caused by being bitten or scratched by a dog. She also had trouble answering prosecution questions and was considered to be a considerable letdown to the defense. Minutes released in a Castro hearing. The minutes were released for Tuesday's hearing on motion to compel deposition of plaintiff and request for monetary sanctions in the sum of $4,560 in the Jose Chile de Castro versus Kate Peters civil case. As expected, the attorney for Michael Bluebacon Paratini did not appear at the hearing, as he had previously notified the court that he was double booked with a trial in federal court that day. His appearance attorney apparently failed to appear in his place. New to the game, however, is attorney Stephen Gablin, who appeared on behalf of DeCastro and told the court that DeCastro was incarcerated in the Clark County Detention Center in Vegas. Gablin failed to file a substitution of attorney form to take the case over from DeCastro, who had previously been representing himself, and Judge H.J. Ford III ordered Gablin to file the paperwork by June 25, 2024. The motion hearing itself was continued to July 30, 2024, and has been renamed to a hearing on motion for reconsideration. It is unclear whether Gablin is actually taking over the case or if he was a temporary replacement for DeCastro, who is indeed incarcerated for the next 40 days in the Clark County Detention Center. Gablin's website claims that he is an internet lawyer and specializes in internet-based business claims. It's unclear if he's qualified to take over the racketeer-influenced and corrupt organizations lawsuit that DeCastro is essentially running in his civil lawsuit against Kate Peter, team skeptic Daniel Clement, and Michael Bluebacon Paratini. But neither was DeCastro. At this point, Gablin seems to be hired to inform the court that DeCastro was in jail and stop the bleeding. DeCastro has had multiple rounds of sanctions imposed against him and was about to lose another round when Gablin stepped in on Tuesday. DeCastro had previously been told to update his address by the court and needed to take action before facing further sanctions. DeCastro had claimed that with good behavior he'll be out by July 26, 2024. If that data is correct, DeCastro should be available to appear at the next hearing scheduled for July 20th, 2024. Wallace to appear on reality show? Floyd Wallace announced on his Thursday live stream that he was a candidate for a reality show called Passport Bros Santa Domenico and needed his fans to vote for him to make the cut of prospective cast members. From the show's official website, Passport Bros Santa Domingo is the brainchild of TV film producer Aaron Rosenberry and his creative team. The visionary reality show operates in real time, so viewers experience the show with the cast. The show provides real insight and a window into the Passport Bros phenomenon and allows supporters and critics alike the opportunity to understand what a passport bro actually is. It also presents the cast with unique opportunities to truly upgrade their lives in the ways they've always wanted. PBSD gives 9 American men a chance at the business, dating, fitness, even the cosmetic surgery opportunities they may have always dreamt of. Will they capitalize on the opportunities of their dreams, or crash and burn like so many of their detractors claim? Tune into the Passport Bros Santo Domenico to find out. The cast will reside for 2 months in one of the most exclusive hotels in the heart of Santo Domenico's historic colonial zone, the incomparable Casa Sanchez, where they will navigate the cobblestone streets, vibrant markets, and historic landmarks of the Zona Colonial, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. If chosen for the show, Wallace would be one of 9 cast members chosen to stay as part of the TikTok-based reality show. According to the same website, the cast will be guided by a jury and spiritual consultants to guide them on their journey of self-discovery, wellness, fame, and riches. Wallace himself seemed to be thrilled at the opportunity, despite having to return to the Dominican Republic after a bad experience earlier this year. He used the announcement as an opportunity and immediately launched into a fundraiser to reimburse him for the funds that he lost when a Dominican Republic hospital double-billed him earlier in the month. The YouTuber also launched into an attack on American women, who he said did not understand the concept of love and would not respect the average American male. He complained that American women have too many options and all of the power in a relationship, and compared women trading partners to upgrading from a PlayStation 4 to a PlayStation 5, where all women will leave their partners for a newer upgrade. Strangely, the candidate for fame and fortune on the reality show then charged his live chat $10 to prove that he had taken a shower for Thursday. After receiving a $10 Cash App donation, he then walked into his bathroom and held up a wet washcloth that he claimed was proof that he had showered. Flashback, June 21st, 2023. Benson's sunburnt rage continues. A sunburnt Regan Benson returned to the Inglewood, Colorado Civic Center to attend Inglewood's bi-weekly city council meeting on Tuesday, proclaiming that she could no longer be bothered with dressing up for the events as she no longer had respect for Inglewood. Updating her day, Benson said her phone signal cut out during her earlier live stream, causing fans to miss her latest nicknames for Officer Anastasia Moore of the Denver Metro Police Department. Moore had chastised Benson for mispronouncing her name earlier in the day, but refused to give Benson the correct pronunciation. Instead, Benson deemed her stupid bitch and other vulgarities before settling on Stacy. Benson's inept fury continued as she sought a chair from Inglewood City Manager Sean Lewis, and then from a security guard named Dwight, who helped her take a chair from an open room at the facility. Now sitting in the otherwise empty lobby of the Inglewood Civic Center, Benson missed her opportunity to sign up for the coveted 5-minute speech slots given to those who sign up to speak at the meeting in advance. Instead, she settled for a 3-minute slot and did not have the backing from her internet helpers or any in-person support from her fellow First Amendment auditors. Benson confirmed that Gino and Shelley, the 2 homeless people that she had been helping navigate resources in Inglewood, had apparently taken their camper and left the area. While she was going to continue her criticism of All Health for not acting swiftly to find the pair housing, there was really nothing more the homeless outreach program could do for the pair if they were no longer in the area. After sitting through the other speakers, chastising anyone who would applaud or make positive comments towards the city council, Benson was called to speak. Benson's 3 minutes were spent chastising All Health, the City Council, and an organization called Tri-City Homeless Coalition, which was responsible for the homeless navigator that previously had met Gino and Shelley before their disappearance. Benson demanded that the City Council members ask her questions after the speech, but was disappointed when the 2 questions she received were generic inquiries about the type of care she was seeking for Gino and Shelley. Outraged, Benson again rage quit, storming from the meeting chamber and out of the building. On her way out of the building, Benson again approached the security guard named Dwight. She asked if the little shits were still working at the facility, in reference to the 2 security officers Benson had previously harassed and insulted in the building. Dwight, off camera, apparently smiled and shook his head. Happy by her apparent victory, she ended her live stream with an extended rant about all political parties being the same, her quitting the Libertarian Party, and how she'll never vote again, as all elections are rigged. on the third day of goose eggs. Okay, kids, time for a song.
On the third day of goose eggs, my true love gave to me. Zip for Denver Metro, zip for Craig Hendry, zip for Christopher Ruff. Long Island's 5 golden eggs. Nothing for fake chili, 3D Castro blanks, even less for public safety. And press with rancor still shoots blanks.
Oh, what a glorious day it is. With nothing going on in the GoFundMe world, let's briefly turn to the future by looking at what's going on in the present day auditing world. Maybe it's the heat, maybe it's apathy, maybe it's a lot of things, but since Jose Chile de Castro's lockup and other auditors facing serious charges for their actions or serious charges brought about from things discovered by their actions, the number of auditor and auditing videos are significantly down. Audit them, gone. Texas Sheepdog in jail and most of his crew gone. Denver Metro Audits is turning himself into the love guru with a weird makeover and focus on anything but actual auditing. Floyd Wallace is churning out rehashed auditing videos daily, but not auditing, instead focusing on whining about the horrors of modern-day life in America. James Freeman is using other people's videos, but doesn't seem to be going out. Jeremiah Payne is no longer a force in the auditing community. Amagasset Press occasionally puts out a video, nothing on the level of an active career in auditing. Most of the days, the automated feed for our Really Cool Newswire's Discord auditing channel is featuring lesser folks like Katie Kidman and News Now Lisa, overseas auditors, or the Southern California auditors doing the same old audits and churning out content, as the big names are too scared or too lazy or too incarcerated to get out of the house. Likewise, while there's still a lot of reaction videos, there's not a lot to react to. Tiny channels are getting a lot less traction. We won't even mention our own minuscule numbers. And the so-called anti-auditing community is in a constant state of civil war, purity tests, and cults of personality, demanding loyalty to the revolving notion of the one true anti-auditor. More and more people who used to create content are leaving. Glenn Ciro is back, y'all, but it doesn't matter. He's rebranding himself as the new Chile de Castro, and while his videos are hilarious as he tries to serve people with his latest $50 million lawsuit threat, he comes off as a 10-year-old trying to fill de Castro's shoes. Where do we go from here? I don't know, honestly. I picked a bad time to launch a YouTube news outlet, as both sides of the community are either in decline or actively trying to destroy each other. But at least it'll be documented for when the end comes. We have 39-ish days until Jose Chile de Castro is out of jail. For now, anyway. Will his grand return mean anything? Will it right the ship? Will it unify communities and put things right? Probably not. It looks like we'll be embracing the chaos, doing the do, and stepping around the deep doo-doo as things continue to decline. Day 3 of goose eggs, and my true love gave to me 4 more goose eggs until the end of this column. Wait, a note from Rose? What's this? There are additions to the list starting tomorrow? No. No. Another bad day for Karen Reed defense. After promising the world that absolute proof that defendant Karen Reed was absolutely innocent of charges of second-degree murder, manslaughter, and everything else, the defense was able to present half of their witnesses on Friday to a collective what the f*** from those watching. I guess we've been hearing the hype train from Aiden Turtleboy Kearney and others for so long that the case would never go to trial because the FBI was going to come in and stop things and put the district attorney in jail, that the prosecution had no evidence of Reed's guilt and the defense wouldn't need to put on a case, that If they did put on a case, Lucky Loughran would save the day. Loughran's testimony was instantly doomed. After testifying that he didn't see John O'Keefe's body in the front lawn of Brian Albert's house from the driver's seat of his snowplow that was equipped with high-powered lights and great viewing angles, Loughran couldn't see across the courtroom to see a large screen projection of evidence some 20 feet from him. That pretty much seemed to sum up the defense's case. Loughran went on to testify that he didn't report a Ford Edge that was supposedly illegally parked in front of Brian Albert's house out of respect to the Albert family. This was a requirement of his duties as a snowplow driver, and if he had made the report, he would have provided an actual fact to work with instead of more questionable testimony in the case. He was also careless that night and somehow ran his plow into a basketball hoop, despite claiming to know it was there and having the ability to avoid it. Eyesight and failing to report issues aside, Loughran also could not explain why the times he was presenting at trial differed so widely from the times he gave in an interview to the federal agency looking into Reed's prosecution, with hours he supposedly was at the scene significantly changing between reports. Things didn't get any better for dog bite expert Dr. Marie Russell, who testified that her opinion was that the wounds on John O'Keefe's right arm were absolutely dog bites or dog scratches or something related to a dog, but couldn't account for the fact that O'Keefe's clothing over the supposed animal marks was not damaged. Digital forensics expert Richard Green then admitted that he had no certifications for the digital software he had been using to examine phones related to the case, and at one point had to call tech support for help. He then focused on claiming that Jennifer McCabe indeed made a Google search at 2:27 a.m., despite the fact that the inventor of the software and chief coder for the software had previously explained why it wasn't possible and the search did not happen at that time. The expert also apologized to McCabe, as the deletions he claimed in previous testimony that McCabe made to phone calls on her phone were impossible for a user to make. All in all, 3 promised witnesses that would assure victory for Karen Reed whiffed hard when given the chance to hit the ball out of the park on Friday. We'll see if they can recover with the last 3 witnesses in her defense on Monday. Sirio sues Edmonds officer. Glenn Sirio released a new video documenting his series of civil lawsuits against those who he feels have wronged him as he served the mayor of Edmonds, Washington, with a lawsuit against a police officer for a brief detainment of Sirio in late 2022. Sirio was detained in October 22 by Edmonds police officer Andrew Mell as he matched the basic description of a person suspected of stealing from an Edmonds Safeway supermarket, an incident that the police were currently investigating. Officer Meal asked Sirio if he ditched a beanie and Seattle Seahawks sweatshirt that the suspect was reported wearing. Sirio refused to answer the officer's questions and began to hurl insults at officers responding to the scene. Sirio was eventually released as it was determined that he was not the person suspected of the crime, but claimed injuries to his neck and ankle and required transportation to a nearby hospital for treatment. The YouTuber did not have physical contact with the officers and did not show the source of his injuries in the course of the video of the incident. Sirio's new video featured his taking of a process server to the Edmonds City Hall and negatively interacting with the receptionist for 8 to 10 minutes before being greeted by Mayor Mike Rawson and Police Chief Michelle Bennett. The mayor shook Sirio's hand and treated him warmly even after Sirio's process server handed the mayor a civil lawsuit. Sirio then explained that it was the first of 2 lawsuits, with the second being a federal civil rights lawsuit where he'll be suing Officer Mill for $50 million. Sirio inquired about his second officer, who had since resigned from the Edmonds police force, and asked Police Chief Bennett if she had the name of his current employer. Bennett did not have that information, and Sirio briefly attempted to escalate drama between the two before catching himself and backing away from the officer. This is the second in a series of lawsuits Sirio has served in the past 2 weeks as part of his revenge tour against police that he has had previous encounters with that resulted in either charges that were not pursued or charges where he was tried and found innocent. The YouTuber previously served the city of Mukilteo, Washington, with multiple lawsuits directed at officers involved in arrests in that city. He also claimed that a federal civil rights lawsuit for $50 million would be filed against the officers. Sirio has also claimed that he had been living in Las Vegas, Nevada earlier in the year and worked with Jose Chili de Castro. He had joined Team DLZ and was helping with the appeal of de Castro's recent conviction of obstructing an officer and interfering in a traffic stop. Sirio's lawsuits are apparently under the advisement of de Castro, who has filed suit against police officers in both Ohio and Nevada. It is unclear if he is representing himself in the lawsuits. Wallace to quit Passport Bro lifestyle? Again? Floyd Wallace's most recent live stream featured the YouTuber claiming that he was having doubts about the Passport Bro lifestyle again and was losing his desire to continue his channel and was thinking about returning to doing some First Amendment audits. Wallace's statements come just a day after he was elated to be part of a possible selection for a Passport Bro reality TV show that is intended to air on TikTok later this year. The YouTuber had previously announced that he was a candidate for a reality show called Passport Bros Santo Dominico, and he needed votes from his viewers to earn a role on the show. He provided no update on the voting or his status in the selection process for the show during the broadcast. The livestream also featured Wallace's complaints about inflation in America. Wallace has been back in the United States for under a month and is currently struggling with the high cost of living in the U.S. as compared to life in South America. Wallace continued his fundraising efforts to replace the money he claims he lost when he was double billed by a hospital in the Dominican Republic earlier in the month. He claimed he needed another $150 in his goal to replace the money and received no donations towards that goal during the 27-minute live stream. When asked about switching platforms and using Twitter's new rules allowing nudity to his advantage to displaying his conquests, Wallace dismissed the idea as he didn't want his pee-pee on the internet. Wallace also accepted an offer from someone who pledged $50 if Wallace would fill out a McDonald's application and turn it in on a live stream. Wallace agreed to the terms only if the person paid him in advance through Cash App. The YouTuber reminded his moderators that their moderation fees were due in 9 days and they needed to pay or else he would take their moderation status away. Wallace is one of the few YouTubers who has monetized the moderation of his YouTube channel, as he requires his moderators to pay $10 for the privilege of moderating his chat each month. Wallace also expressed his frustration with buying a car, as his deal with his cousin to purchase the vehicle he had been renting had apparently fallen through. He wondered why it was so hard to purchase a car on Facebook Marketplace and made multiple appeals for donations towards the car before ending the live stream. Flashback, June 22nd, 2023, De Castro live streams from downtown Las Vegas. Jose Chili de Castro spent Wednesday evening live streaming outside of the Clark County Detention Center and protesting the state of detention centers in America. De Castro stood outside the facility's booking entrance while watching police cars deliver suspects to the facility. He interacted with various pedestrians and people looking for their loved ones who were being held inside the building. He eventually paused to contrast the loveliness of the Golden Nugget Hotel behind him with the stark environment presented by the detention center. The YouTuber devoted part of his live streaming to defending influencer and alpha male Andrew Tate, who has been charged in Romania with rape and human trafficking. De Castro stated that he felt like Tate was incapable of the crimes due to his alpha male status. De Castro also used the time to address his feelings about violence. The activist questioned police taking abusers away from the homes after they assaulted anyone else, as jail would only anger them further and lead to continued abuse. Claiming he had a plan for domestic abuse when he was governor, but failing to state his plan, De Castro assured his viewers that things could change for the better when he obtained political standing as the chief executive of a yet-to-be-named state. The homeless activist and YouTuber eventually left the facility when he thought he recognized a police officer he had a previous confrontation with at a traffic stop, hastily exiting the scene after an hour boldly live streaming from the detention center. Eventually finding himself at the Las Vegas Fremont Street Experience, De Castro seemed lost in the lights and sounds. He was eventually approached by a fan named Mark, who asked him about Nevada's stop and ID laws. The fan took a picture with De Castro before exiting the live stream.
Well, that's it, folks. Thank you for being here. This was the really cool news week in review. We'll be doing these every Sunday morning from now on. They'll either be live or recording. I'll determine that like the day before. Really depends on how I'm feeling. We do have power back for those who are concerned. Uh, yeah, right after I had spammed everyone that we would for sure be on the air at 7:30 last night with the newscast. Well, nature had other ideas. A storm came through, and the storm only took 5 minutes to knock power out for 7 hours. So, yeah, storm, yay. My niece was working a blues festival a bit east of us, and it was an outdoor festival, and they lost about 10, 15 vendors got hit by the storm, and their little booths were all knocked over. No serious injuries, but yeah, she said it was scary for a while. Anyway, we got power back last night. I was just too tired to do anything, so I ended up recording the rest of these stories and going back to bed so we'd have this broadcast at least ready to go. I am now working on the newspaper for today. I've got I still have to write 3 stories, and then that should be up by around 12:30 today Eastern Time. We will be on the air tonight at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. where it counts, 4:30 p.m. Mountain, and 3:30 p.m. Pacific Time for our normal newscast, followed at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. where it counts, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. on the West Coast for our Saturday panel on a Sunday. We had previously planned for this yesterday, but now it means more than ever because, yeah, we'll have some time to explore things like why Jim is not bitching at people for raising money. He's bitching at them for being so damn lazy about it. They need to get off their butts and hustle. Damn it. Anyway, we are out of here in a minute. I'm going to do the closing credits, and there is not a post-credit scene this week. Sorry about that. I didn't have time to get one together, but there will be a new one tonight. Also, our Patreon, as Pope Phil announced on the show on Friday, will be released probably next week, now that I lost an entire evening where I was supposed to be doing that. Anyway, we will talk to you again tonight if I can find the thing.